February 16. 309. Pamphilius, presbyter of Sarea, died. He was of an eminent family, of great wealth and extensive learning, and ardently devoted to the Scriptures. He collected a library of 30,000 volumes, solely for the promotion of religion. Traces of this library still remain at Paris and elsewhere. 1009. Abdurrahman, hajib, or chamberlain, of Hisham, king of Cordova, beheaded. He was entrusted with the civil and military powers of government, but aspiring to the throne itself, was destroyed by the people. 1279. Alonzo III of Portugal, died. From an exile in poverty he was raised to the throne by the Pope, who had deposed his brother for attacking the immunities of the Church. 1497. Birthday of Philip Melancthon, at Britten, in the palatinate of the Rhine. His proper name was Schwartzerd Black Earth, but according to the custom of the learned of that time, he changed it into the Greek term for the same word, Melancthon. 1510. The Portuguese under Alfonso Albuquerque entered Goa in Hindustan. 1532. Richard Growles, the Bishop of Rochester's cook, poisoned the soup and caused the death of several persons. An act was immediately passed making poisoning treason, and the punishment boiling to death. Rouse was boiled. 1560. John du Bellay, Bishop of Paris, died. He was engaged as a negotiator between Henry VIII and the Pope, with respect to the divorce of the former. 1639. Teixeira, having ascended the Amazon and arrived at Quito, re-embarked on his return this day, in a fleet of 45 canoes, with 70 soldiers, and 1,200 native rowers. 1656. Spain declared war against England. 1736. Owing to an unprecedented tide, the council at Westminster Hall, London, were carried out in boats to their coaches. 1741. George Raphael Donner, an Austrian sculptor, died. His works, to be seen in many Austrian churches and palaces, are masterpieces. 1749. Great riot at the Haymarket, London, occasioned by the failure of a conjurer to leap, as he promised, into a quart bottle. 1754. Richard Meade died, aged 81. He studied at the German universities at the same time its Brahov, with whom he was intimate, and distinguished himself as a practitioner. On his return to England, he introduced inoculation for smallpox about the year 1720. His preliminary experiments were made upon condemned criminals. He did not live to see the great improvement by vaccination, introduced by Jenner. 1760. The Cherokees under Oconostota attacked Fort Prince George in Virginia, garrisoned by the British and Americans. The Indians were repulsed, and 20 hostages, residing in the fort, and who attempted to rise on the garrison, were put to death. 1770. Bruce, the traveler, entered Gondar, the capital of Abyssinia, and was introduced into the palace of the emperor. 1784. Peter Macker, a physician and chemist of great reputation, died at Paris. 1791. Herkimer and Otsego counties, New York, erected. 1792. Moulay Yazid, Emperor of Morocco, died of wounds received in battle on the 12th, when an end was put to a scene of slaughter which had continued since the 6th, such as the city had seldom known. It was computed that 20,000 of every age and sex were destroyed. 1794. Tioga County in New York erected. 1795. The stadtholdership abolished in Holland. The stadtholder, Prince William of Orange, was then in England. 1796. John Romilly died at Paris. He was an ingenious mechanic and clockmaker at Geneva, and author of the articles on clockmaking in the Encyclopédie. 1796. Amboina, the Dutch metropolis of the Moluccas, taken by the British under Admiral Rhine. 1798. Stephen Charles Loménie de Brienne, Archbishop and Minister of State of France under Louis XVI, died. He early associated himself with the instigators of the revolution, but while he attempted to reduce the power and wealth of the monasteries, he was liberal in assisting those who were in need. Failing to keep pace with the Ultra Party, he was thrown into prison, where he died of ill treatment. 1802. Toussaint L'Ouverture and Christophe, black generals of Saint Domingo, declared rebels by the French general, Leclerc. 1804. United States frigate Philadelphia burnt in the harbor of Tripoli. This splendid action was achieved in 15 minutes by 70 volunteers under Lieutenant Stephen Decatur, in the ketch Intrepid, with the loss of 1 killed. Decatur was promoted, and a sword and thanks voted him. 1807. Battles of Rosega and Ostrolenka, between the French and Russians, in which the former were victorious in both instances. 1810. St. Martin surrendered to the British. 1812. Battle of Cartama in Spain. The French under Jean Marensin defeated by the Spaniards, under Ballesteros. 1813. An elegant sword and thanks voted to Decatur and Biddle, by the legislature of Pennsylvania, for their distinguished gallantry and skill. To those officers at New London, on board their respective ships. 1826. Lindley Murray, the grammarian, died in England, aged 81. He was born in Pennsylvania, of Quaker parentage, and studied law. But during the Revolutionary War he turned merchant, and before its close acquired sufficient property to retire upon. He visited England for the benefit of his health, where he finally settled about a mile from the city of York, and employed his leisure in the production of those works of education, which acquired such popularity as to have maintained their places more than 40 years. 1826. The Liberia Herald appeared at Monrovia, the first paper printed in Africa. It was edited by Charles L. Force, from Boston, and like the early newspapers of New England, was printed on one side only. 1829. Francis Joseph Gossec, an eminent music composer, died, aged 96. He was first attached to the cathedral at Antwerp, but in 1751 went to Paris, where he passed the remainder of his life, and acquired a reputation seldom surpassed. 1839. James Boaden, an English dramatic author and biographer, died, aged 70. 1843. Great landslide at Troy, New York. 18 persons killed. 1852. Homeopathic College at Cleveland, Ohio, mobbed, and the windows and interior of the building destroyed, in consequence of the discovery of the remains of subjects which had been taken from the burial ground there. 1852. State Lunatic Asylum at Lexington, Kentucky, destroyed by fire, in which one of the inmates perished. 1853. George Manners died, aged 75. Many years British consul at Boston, and author of several dramas of merit, and other poetical works. 1853. William Gibbs McNeill died, aged 51, a military officer who, during the Dorr excitement in Rhode Island, commanded the state troops, acting throughout with great prudence and judgment. 1853. The steamer Independence from San Juan del Sud to San Francisco, wrecked on Margaret Island, and also took fire, by which 140 lives were lost. 1854. The boiler of the Kate Kearney bursted at Louisville, Kentucky, killing and wounding a great number of people. 1856. John Stoddard, an English author, died, aged 84. He for many years contributed leading articles to the Times newspaper, and was sometime Chief Justice of Malta. 1857. Elisha K. Kane, the Arctic explorer, died at Havana, Cuba.